Good afternoon, everybody. Excited about this game on tomorrow. Early in the season when we went and played Auburn, we didn't have the type of success on either end of the floor that we wanted to. So here's a chance for us to come back in front of our fans and what we're anticipating a great home crowd and try to play on a much higher level than we did the first time around. Here recently, we haven't been as consistent as we wanted to be on either end of the floor. Turnovers have been a problem. Hadn't shot the ball as well as we wanted to. We haven't been great in terms of paying attention to detail, especially with some of the strengths of our opposing, some of the opposing players. But yesterday we had a pretty lively practice. It'll continue today, and hopefully we'll have some positive carryover into tomorrow's game.
Coach, go ahead and start with Cecil on the far left.
Coach, I have two. In the first one, in the first game against Auburn, I think they went to the free throw 40 times. Went to the free throw line 40 times, and this is not an officiating question. It's a style of play.
Was it 40 or what was the number?
46. 46, I think, was the actual. I was trying to just kind of round it off.
Well, you should have said 50.
46 times,
Yeah.
which seemed like a lot. And so not an officiating question, just a style of play question. Have you changed the way you defend? Is that better?
We think we've been playing better position defense on and off the ball. We're really a team. If you look at it statistically, we're not a fouling team. So if we go into a game and, teams get to the free throw line on us 40 plus times, then that's kind of a rare deal for us. We take pride in trying to play defense without fouling, position defense. So that's happened to us maybe once or twice this year, but it's pretty unusual for us. Normally, a good defensive game for us is when teams are shooting free throws in the low teens. That's what's been a strength of ours this year. So hopefully we'll be able to play defense on and off the ball and really be in solid position, which then helps us to rebound the basketball.
Thank you, Coach. And also, prior to the Kentucky game, you talked briefly about what you called the elephant in the room. Are you kind of, is that over with? Have you said
one thing? Yeah, we talked about it one time, which I had to say something about it because they obviously been pummeled with all of those questions. But now I see a team that's what I saw yesterday, because that probably was our best practice in 2 months. I see a team that's back to normal in terms of their focus, and we've responded well after a loss to Kentucky.
Let's go on the left side, left to Alex.
Obviously, since the Auburn game, this team has been playing a whole lot better and kind of showing, not counting the last two games, obviously, but just where specifically do you think this team has made improvements to, since that game?
Well, first of all, let's take a look at what you asked. Not counting the last two games. Well, the game against Mississippi State, that's a team that we're pretty even with, right? It showed in our overtime win there, and they came back and won. So that loss was disappointing because we're at home. We thought we could have won that game. The Kentucky game, we're still not quite on that level yet. And our guys try hard. It was a tough road game for us. So I would focus more on that Mississippi State game than the Kentucky game. And we still have to take care of the ball. We're not going to be very good if Arthur and Riley combine for 2 points. We're better when we get balanced scoring. Redden and Shannon and Arthur and Riley, maybe Justin, Jimmy. So we have 6 guys that can actually score in double figures for us. But when it's basically a one-man band, we're not as effective.
And I wanted to ask you, kind of off the question you just answered from Cecil, but how much do you talk or make the team aware of kind of what y'all need to do these last couple games, knowing, you are still on that bubble? You're kind of,
That hasn't really worked well when we've had those extended conversations. I've been preaching the whole year, the first 4 minutes of the game, the first minute of the game, after that first timeout, what do we do next? Get a temperature on what we're doing. We understand we have 3 games left. Obviously, the schedule's plastered all over the locker room, and they see it every day on TV. But, the game tomorrow is where our mind is. Their strengths and weaknesses, and us trying to exploit some of the strengths and try to keep them away from, try to keep them playing to their weaknesses. So that's and playing to our strengths. We have to play to our strengths, and we haven't done that here recently. Matt, you videotaping me today?
Trying to handle as many responsibilities as I can.
Okay.
But just in terms of the practice yesterday, that was something Riley talked about also, just how great that practice was, and you referencing being the best practice in a while. What was so great about the practice? What stuck out to you?
We basically played a game, because of guys being banged up, our practices have suffered. We haven't been able to get up and down as much, trying to save guys for games. Fortunately, Clark, our trainer, released everybody to have a full-fledged practice, which we haven't had in a while. A real hard-nosed practice. So I'm glad we were able to do that on yesterday, and hopefully, we'll have some more carryover today and into the game on tomorrow. So that was something a little bit different than what we've done here recently.
Coach, you mentioned the need for increased balance, on offense. How do you kind of get that flow started again with the offense? And have you noticed some of the players being a little bit tentative offensively? Or?
No, like I've said, guys, for the longest, when we lose, it's not always our lack of production or effort or energy or focus. Now, that can contribute to the problem. But unfortunately, we are playing against another opponent that scout well and play well, and they try to take us out of some of our strengths. We just have to be more patient. We've been impatient offensively, and we're not a team that score 90 points a game. There's a sweet spot in terms of the amount of points we score, the amount of points we give up. We can't play too fast, but yet recently we've been playing too slow. So, and then our practice habits have been somewhat shaky until yesterday. So, you got to take the good with the bad. It's all a learning cycle. We were kind of in an up cycle, uptick. We're a little bit in the down cycle now, trying to come back up again. And we can get back up if we, come out and play the way I know we can play in tomorrow's game.
Yeah, just following up on everybody being released to practice yesterday. I know that doesn't include Dejan, but he was tweeting that he's out of his boot now. And
Yeah.
Can you kind of give us an update on what he can do or what you want to do with him?
Okay, yeah, so he's out of the boot, and, he's been riding the bike over the last week or two. But fortunately, he's released 100%, so we can continue to rehab him in the swimming pool. He can shoot free throws. He can go through a full workout in the weight room now. Eventually, we'll get him on a treadmill to actually start jogging a little bit. So yeah, we got a new machine that I'll tell you a lot more about that's going to arrive here. I think it's going to be here in about 10 days, but just be patient with me. I'll tell you about that new equipment that's going to take our entire training rehab program to the next level. So he's progressing nicely, and I'm really excited about the kid because it's been a long rehab for him and just was a tough injury.
Obviously, one game now you've gotten to experience the Alabama-Auburn rivalry. Just what was that experience like for you looking back on it? And now, how much does this one matter being at home and just specifically Auburn and Alabama?
Well, in a lot of ways, the first time around, I hadn't experienced it, so I felt kind of like an outsider in some ways. And now, I understand why it means so much to so many people. And I'm not an outsider anymore. I've been through it. I think I'm embracing it much more than I did the first time around. When the ball was tipped on their court and we're going back and forth and everybody's pretty much laying it all out on the line. And then when you walk in that locker room and it's an L, you feel it, okay? It's kind of the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. So I feel it a lot more this time around, and we're at home, and there's no sidestepping it.